Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Stephanie Banks, a marketing manager at Perficient, and I'm excited to be moderating today's webinar and delivering cognitive customer service with IBM Watson. We are recording today, and we'll be sure to send an email with information on how to access this after the session. Time permitting, we'll answer questions at the end of the presentation, so please type those into the chat box on the bottom left of your screen. In a moment, I'll hand it over to our speakers, but first let me give you a quick overview of Perficient. Perficient is the leading digital transformation consulting firm serving Global 2000 and enterprise customers throughout North America. With unparalleled information technology, management consulting, and creative capabilities, Perficient and its Perficient Digital Agency deliver vision, execution, and value. We have a broad network of locations across the US, as well as offshore facilities in India and China. We deliver digital experience, business optimization, and industry solutions that cultivate and captivate customers, drive efficiency, integrate business processes, improve productivity, reduce costs, and create a more agile enterprise. Founded in 1997, we're a public company with approximately 3,000 employees. We form strategic partnerships with major technology vendors and also have dedicated solutions and industry practices. And when specific areas around IBM Watson and cognitive solutions. This year, we were presented with the IBM Beacon Award for an outstanding Watson cognitive solution. We're joined by Blueworx today, who bring over 100 years of combined expertise in voice and mobile application development. They deliver massively scalable and reliable voice solutions that light up the customer experience. The Blueworx IVR supports real-time interactive voice response communication using IBM Watson APIs, allowing customers to immediately take advantage of Watson speech and language technology. And now a little background on our speakers. Christine Livingston is the IBM Watson Practice Director here at Perficient. She leads our team of Watson subject matter experts and closely works with IBM to deliver outstanding Watson solutions across industries. Christine is also a frequent speaker at IBM conferences like World of Watson and Interconnect, along with major industry events like HIMSS. Dean Upton is the Strategic Director of Consulting at Blueworx. He's responsible for understanding the trends in the IVR industry and the future requirements of clients to define the development strategy for Blueworx products and SaaS. His current focus is in the introduction of highly scalable SaaS cloud offerings. And prior to the foundation of Blueworx, Dean worked at IBM Hearsley for 16 years in a variety of roles in IBM Voice Technologies. Today's session will cover the benefits of cognitive solutions in your customer service organization, a high-level look at Watson, and case studies for cognitive in customer service. And to kick off the webinar, we'd like to start with two quick polling questions to see where everyone is on their path to adopting and implementing cognitive solutions. So do you currently have an AI or artificial intelligence strategy in place to enhance your customer experience? And you can select the following option that best applies to your organization. Yes, we have a strategy. We're considering AI. No, not at this time. And let's give everyone another moment to answer. Got some responses still coming in. And it looks like most people are considering AI or have not developed a strategy at this time. For our next polling question, which of the following customer experience solutions are implemented at your company? You can select multiple responses here. Chatbots, virtual agents, interactive voice response or IVR systems, customer service analysis, or none of the above. And we'll wait another few seconds for people to respond. Let's just wait another moment for people to send in their answers. And it looks like most people have IVR systems or some form of customer service analysis. All right, and now we'll move on to the presentation. I'll turn things over to Dean.
Thank you. And first of all, thanks everyone for spending the time to be with us today. With an ever-competing, transparent marketplace, It's easier than ever for customers to shop around with the touch of a button to find not only the best deal, but also the best company to do business with. And contact centers are dealing with the changes in technology alongside these changing demands of their customers. High expectations for faster, more efficient services are at the heart of generating loyal customers and keeping up a strong brand image. Customer reviews, both good and bad, are readily available from a mass of one-click links, and we all know the impact social media can have on a brand. So how do you set yourself apart from the competition and ensure you're retaining loyal customers and delivering an exceptional customer experience? There is often an imbalance of objectives between business and customers when it comes to why and how self-service channels are developed. From a business perspective, it's all about call deflection and providing customers with an automated way to deal with simple tasks like bank balances or prescription refills. However, customers choose self-service in order to get their questions answered quickly, no matter what kind of question. Often, questions require a higher degree of thinking or research in order to provide a relevant answer, yet still could, with the right technology, be answered in a self-service manner. This imbalance of objectives for self-service is what we call the customer experience gap. 62% of companies today say they believe that customer experience is a differentiator, yet only 50% have plans for investment in this area. However, Gartner predicts that in just a few short years, 85% of customer engagement will not be with a live agent. So going forwards, customer experience is going to be a huge factor in how customers will interact with your business, and it's important to consider how you will invest for when they interact with yours. So in summary for the introduction, to drive customer loyalty, you must invest in customer experience. Now, at this point, I'd like to hand over to Christine Livingston, the Director for IBM Watson at Perficient, and who has a wealth of experience implementing Watson solutions, to introduce and describe how they have used the power of Watson services to transform customer experience. Christine.
Thanks, Dean. So this is one of my personal favorite topics. The big question is always, what is Watson? So if you've turned on your television in the last 2 years, you have almost definitely seen and heard of IBM Watson, but may have trouble identifying what exactly it is. So is Watson a tablet that you talk to like Serena Williams? Is it a giant server that's running in an IBM data center? Is it a robot sitting in a hotel lobby that you can interact with? What exactly is this semi-nebulous thing we all have experienced as Watson? So think of Watson not as any particular object or giant server, but a platform designed to provide cognitive capabilities that you can infuse throughout your organization. So we look at Watson as having these 3 characteristics of cognitive or artificial intelligence, which are understanding, reasoning, and learning. Understanding means that Watson can understand and process information in all forms, so structured and unstructured data, audio data, visual data, all while still understanding and maintaining the context and meaning of that data and information. Traditional analytics systems and applications really only operate on structured data. So Watson's ability to understand, digest, and make sense of unstructured data is really a differentiator. Watson also has an ability to reason, which means it can form hypotheses, understand potential outcomes, and ultimately prioritize recommendations so that people can make stronger, more objective decisions. And then the piece that most people are familiar with is its capability to learn through interaction. So Watson is trained rather than being programmed by subject matter experts so that we can enhance and scale their expertise throughout your organization. So Dean already mentioned really why so many companies are looking at customer experience. There's a big challenge while you're looking at that customer experience initiative in that you've got data explosion. Everyone's familiar with big data and the challenges surrounding it. But of that information growth, 80% of that information is unstructured. So it's growing at a rate we all know it's impossible to keep up with, and traditional systems and applications can't make sense or leverage 80% of the information available to you as an organization. At the same time, we see millennials moving into the landscape with a huge amount of buying power, and they are expecting very relevant, very personalized engagement, while there is so much more data to sift through and understand. So we see cognitive and Watson specifically as really being a competitive advantage and the bridge between this information growth and an expectation of addressing and meeting customers in a very personal, relevant way, where cognitive and Watson allows you to enhance your customer experience in the midst of this information explosion. So for quick review, when we talk about structured and unstructured data, pretty elementary, but want to make sure we make this distinction since it's fundamental to this conversation. Structured data is very easy to classify and quantify. It's information that you can easily put into tables, rows, and columns Excel spreadsheets. Unstructured data is much more difficult to organize using these traditional mechanisms, but it's, again, really how we communicate with each other in the world around us. This is where all of our social media, all of our email exchanges, all of our call center and customer experience interactions are going to happen through unstructured data. And it's really where a wealth of information lies. When we start talking about how you analyze that unstructured information and looking at natural language questions, you really have to do more than look for specific keywords or phrases to arrive at the correct conclusions. So if you go all the way back to an example of Jeopardy, if we were to take the Jeopardy question that says, in May 1898, Portugal celebrated the 400th anniversary of this explorer's arrival in India, and we were to look for passages that match that question using keyword or phrase searching, we'll find the passage that says, in May, Gary arrived in India after he celebrated his anniversary in Portugal. And so for a keyword perspective, these two passages are a great match. Both talking about celebrations, the month of May, anniversaries, the same countries of Portugal and India. So we may incorrectly deduce that Gary is therefore the explorer that we're looking for. Now we obviously know that that answer is incorrect, and that just because these two passages share those words in common doesn't mean that they have the same context or meaning, and does not support a justification to answer that question. So we really have to teach our applications and systems to think and to process information the same way that we as people do. So this works by leveraging multiple reasoning algorithms and really taking that reasoning to a higher level. So you can use temporal reasoning to know that the 400th anniversary of May 1898 is equivalent to May 1498. You can use statistical paraphrasing to know that landing somewhere implies arriving somewhere. And geospatial reasoning will tell you that Kapad Beach is in India. Therefore, if I have arrived in Kapad Beach, I have arrived in India. And using these higher level reasoning algorithms, we can much more correctly deduce that Vasco da Gama is the explorer that we're looking for. And if you think back to that keyword scenario and you look at these two passages, the only keyword that they share in common is the month of May. So simply looking for keywords or phrases is going to inevitably lead you down the wrong path and will draw the wrong conclusions. So when we look at ways that Watson and Cognitive are impacting customer service and engagement, it typically falls across these 4 usage patterns. So your patterns really are around agent assist, which is around providing contextual consolidated information to your call center agents so that they can deliver consistent, accurate, objective answers. It helps to scale your expertise to your more novice agents and can help personalize your customer experience. We also see a lot of companies moving towards virtual agents, which is all around providing a self-service option that can engage your customers across multiple channels through multiple mediums and can educate them or guide them through transactions. And the next step to that solution, which we'll talk about in much more detail today, is an integrated voice solution where you start to embed your Watson virtual agent within the context of an IVR so that you can really elevate that customer experience. And we've also seen companies moving towards an active listening model, which is where you have Watson listening to a conversation, providing contextual information at the point of impact. Also bleeds a little bit into that agent assist pattern. And then the 4th pattern is more of a post-mortem, actually providing a customer service interaction analysis. So looking at the ways that you're engaging your customers and analyzing it with those higher level algorithms to really understand what customers are saying, to understand what they are experiencing, and look at trends and relationships across multiple sources of content. So if we look at that agent assist usage pattern just a little bit more closely, the Watson Agent Assist is really, again, providing contextual 360-degree insight into entities relevant to your customer service experience. This may be customer information, product information, service tickets, etc. And it's designed to provide scalability throughout your call center and can provide those insights through analysis of those existing tickets and information, helping to scale expertise to your more novice agents. And we also see this usage pattern of active listening, which is where you have Watson really listening into the conversation. And as customers are asking relevant questions, Watson is retrieving relevant information, surfacing it to the agent so that the agent no longer has to search across multiple repositories or knowledge bases, and they're able to answer questions much more quickly in context of the current customer's call and engage that customer, again, at that point of impact. When we look at virtual agents, again, this is really one of the most common usage patterns we're seeing, and we're seeing this start to scale in a couple different ways that I'll talk about in just a minute as well. But virtual agents really are focused on providing a cognitive customer experience where you see customers really looking for self-service options that allows them to engage beginning to end for a transaction or to engage in a process. And it's about Watson providing the relevant answers to them at the point of impact and ensuring that those follow-up activities happen as expected, which ultimately moves your customer experience and your customer interactions from a first call resolution landscape to a first contact resolution landscape. So most companies today have fairly limited self-service options, and the majority of their customer engagements are handled through level 1 live agents. So we see the vast majority of fairly simplistic tasks are happening through your call center with your level 1 live agent, and those that need to be escalated are escalated accordingly. And when we introduce Watson and virtual agents to your customer experience, we move to a first contact resolution. So customers are no longer frustrated with the initial point of impact that they have with your company. They're able to resolve the item they came to engage with your company for through those self-service mediums. We're scaling the scope of those self-service options and significantly decreasing the call volume and the amount of interactions that need to be reflected to a level 1 live agent. So it's important to understand the difference between scripted and cognitive conversations, and this is really meant to kind of think about not all chatbots are created equal. So many chatbots still function as a very scripted conversation. So if you think about a traditional IVR environment where you're greeted at every point in the decision tree with a, if you would like to check your bill, press 1. If you want to pay your balance, press 2 decision. Most chatbots still engage customers in that same very structured way, where you're orchestrating the customer through a predetermined conversation flow, and they expect very specific words or phrases at each one of those decision points. So they're really still operating in that keyword search world. They function best on fairly structured data, and they can work well on short and simple tasks and are quick to implement, but have trouble scaling to a wider breadth and depth of solution. When you look at a cognitive conversation, this is where Watson really differentiates again from many other chatbots available today. So Watson is instead driven by conversational intent, so by actually understanding what your customer is saying. It's trained to understand natural language, so it's not looking for specific words or phrases, and it can operate, because of that training, on both structured and unstructured data. It's going to learn over time, and you'll see that it's capable of a much wider range of tasks, although the training time will vary by complexity and the breadth of depth of solution you're looking to implement. So when we talk about virtual agents, we always recommend that you implement your virtual agent in phases, that you scale your implementation over time across a growing knowledge base and also across multiple channels. So you can create your Watson knowledge base starting initially with very basic knowledge and then scaling it out to become more and more specific and a much deeper range of information that your Watson virtual agent is capable of processing. And we also see most customers exposing this virtual agent across 1 or 2 channels at a time and eventually scaling that same knowledge base and ability to engage customers over multiple mediums, again, over time. So with that thought in mind, I'd like to hand it back over to Dean so we can talk a little bit more about how the specific channel of an IVR or voice integration works on top of your virtual agent knowledge base.
Thank you, Christine. So we've learned that Watson is able to transform the experience we can provide by understanding and reasoning unstructured data and learning from the interactions. We can provide knowledge to the agents or directly to the customer through multiple channels. Forrester research stated that voice will be increasingly important in future as more interfaces will not have a screen. Consider Amazon Echo, Google Home, in-car assistants, etc. So to enable the customer to talk directly to Watson, we need a little more technology. Blueworx has decades of experience of providing extremely reliable and scalable voice access to applications. And for us, Watson can provide the ultimate voice application, and we can give Watson its voice. Of course, Watson has its own voice, it's Watson's speech, but it needs to be tied together with the application logic and delivered reliably to thousands of callers on a wide range of phones and devices. And that's what we do well. If you already have a call center or IVR, a rip and replace approach is risky and unnecessary. Blueworx technology is proven and established, but cognitive applications are still relatively new, and it can be desirable to phase in cognitive services, as Christine described. One way to phase in cognitive voice applications is to replace just certain parts of an IVR with an equivalent cognitive application. With Blueworx, you can run your existing directed dialogue IVR and cognitive voice applications side by side and seamlessly. Another way is to gradually increase the amount of involvement the cognitive application has in the call. To achieve this, we separated out the interaction into two aspects. The cognitive conversation focuses on improving the dialogue, the flow, and the quality of the spoken interaction. And the cognitive information adds to this by intelligently using the unstructured data from a wide range of sources to provide the customer with what they need quickly and easily. Improving the conversation has an immediate impact and is relatively easy to implement. So these are perhaps the first steps towards a cognitive contact center. Cognitive information can be introduced first to assist agents, then to interact directly with the caller. And by learning from each call, the assistance becomes more refined, requiring less agent time and achieving a greater level of autonomy. In this example, applications are being written using Watson services to gather data from various sources up at the top right there and provide this powerful information to the agent using the methods described by Christine earlier. We can then add Blueworx and some additional Watson services down on the bottom right to provide a self-service route to the same applications. And the objective here may be to reduce costs by freeing up agent time or improving customer satisfaction with quality self-service, or both. So let's take a look at the building blocks to achieve this. At first, we can simply update the IVR's speech engine with Watson Speech, which has a pay-as-you-go licensing model that can reduce costs considerably. However, Watson uses its own speech APIs rather than MRCP, which is the voice standard for interacting with speech engines. So Blueworx have worked closely with IBM, who have developed an MRCP connector to Watson Speech services. And this can bring the benefits of Watson Speech to your Blueworx IVR today. In this diagram, we have simply swapped the existing speech engines used by Blueworx for Watson Speech using an MRCP connector. Now we go one step further, and the next level of autonomy can come from migrating from a directed dialogue IVR or scripted IVR to a true conversation. Writing conversation applications requires a different approach than voice XML or state tables. And IBM Watson provides a web-based tool for developing and running conversation applications called, appropriately, Watson Conversation. And this allows you to easily develop an application with fluid interaction. But Watson also goes one step further with an additional service called Watson Virtual Agent. And this is an easy-to-use, pre-configured conversation application that's ideal for call centers. So if we just take a look at the typical call flow of how this works. If we look at the top left with a call coming in, it arrives through a SIP gateway, for example, if we're taking it from a traditional telephone network. And the call is routed through to the IVR. And so you can see there in the IVR tier, the Blueworx IVR. We then access a voice XML application, which is running alongside perhaps a whole bunch of other existing IVR applications. And they could be up at step 4 there. You can see it accessing some client data and providing that information directly. Alternatively, it can execute this transformation layer, which then uses a variety of back-end services from Watson, such as WebSphere Virtual Agent, Watson Virtual Agent, Watson Conversation, Natural Language Classifier, to establish the ongoing dialogue and to provide the logic for the application. We then go to the next stage, which is around step 6, through the MRCP server. And we're using this connector, we can connect to the Watson Speech to provide the speech interface from this textual application. I should probably also add that up in the top right there, step 8, you can also interact directly with the Watson application. So that provides you with an omni-channel route to the same application. So in summary, the cognitive contact center transforms the customer's experience in the following ways. Firstly, it unlocks information you already have to find patterns or information to help the customer. Secondly, the system continuously learns from its experience. And thirdly, it transforms the interaction itself by providing agents with personalized information and ultimately providing a smooth, fluid, self-service experience. So I'd now like to hand back to Christine, who will share with us some real-life examples. Christine.
Thanks, Dean. We've just picked one case study for each one of the usage patterns we've touched on here. So in this notion of an agent assist and providing a 360-degree contextual view, we worked with a major life insurer to provide them a 360-degree customer perspective. We were able to unify information across multiple platforms, structured and unstructured data, consolidating multiple system logins and search platforms. We're able to automate call note summary and the closure process to all of the follow-up activities, and we're able to ultimately improve their consistency in the transcript analysis of their customer service interactions. And by using Watson for an agent assist application, they were able to reduce their average handling time by 43%, increase their customer satisfaction, and significantly shorten their training period and attrition within their customer service representatives as well. We also worked with a North American software company to provide a Watson digital concierge or a Watson virtual agent. They were specifically looking to transform their user experience, and we found that their virtual agent was able to autonomously handle 60% of their Tier 1 requests upon the initial release. It was specifically focused on activating software and basic software maintenance tasks around license keys. With the release of this Watson Digital Concierge, they were able to lower their support costs by 90% and shorten their overall resolution times by 99% by, again, providing that immediate contextual feedback at the point of impact. We've also worked with a healthcare insurer to provide an interactive, voice-enabled Watson solution for healthcare providers. So this cognitive agent actually integrates through their IVR system to provide benefits verification to providers. So they were able to transform that traditional IVR experience, right? If you're a patient calling, please press 1. If you're a provider, please press 2. We were able to change that to more of an I'm Watson, how can I help you today type of experience. And they were able to reduce their call time from 8 minutes to 3 minutes, so a 63% reduction in average handling time. And they also saw the number of live agent requests reduced dramatically as well, which means the number of people that were pressing pound or yelling operator into the phone dramatically reduced as a result of their Watson implementation in the IVR. So one of the most common questions we get asked is also, how do I get started? We have two fairly standard approaches to help you understand how you can leverage Watson within your organization. We execute quite often IBM Watson workshops, which help you understand the applications of Watson, how it may drive value, and provides us further clarification and understanding of your organization and your business processes. And then we also execute Watson Innovation Labs, where we actually rapidly prototype and create working Watson prototypes and proof of concepts throughout the course of about 3 to 4 weeks with a specific focus on design thinking and the customer experience in that Innovation Lab approach as well. So a typical workshop and Innovation Lab format, again, initially starts out around providing additional education around artificial intelligence and IBM Watson, use cases specific to your industry, defining and understanding your objectives, goals, and KPIs, digging into how Watson's been applied, And then when we move to an innovation lab approach, we also look at the end user experience, do some design thinking exercises, and rapidly prototype Watson solutions for your organization as well. And so with that, I will hand it back to Stephanie to moderate some of the questions that have come in.
Great, thanks, Christine. As Christine mentioned, we're going to move on to questions that have come in through the chat box during this session. If you have any additional questions, feel free to type those in as well, and we'll get to those. So to kick things off, can you still run directed dialogue applications side by side with the cognitive applications? And that one is probably for Dean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to us, the cognitive application begins life as a voice XML application. And so we can call an existing traditional voice XML application and then switch over to a cognitive application and back and forth seamlessly. So that's no problem whatsoever.
Okay, great, thank you. We've had a few questions on data security. Primarily how the cognitive abilities developed by the ingestion of the client's proprietary data are protected and dedicated to that specific client and not competition.
So that's a great question, Stephanie. And since a lot of you mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that you're still formulating an AI strategy, it's something you should seriously consider while you're creating that strategy. So when you execute an engagement with Watson, think about it as though you're getting your own mini instance of Watson. So you have a platform with all of the capabilities and understanding and ability to scale to these solutions, but you're working in an isolated, dedicated instance. So any data that you use to communicate with your Watson instance is kept isolated, it's kept private, and any training that you put into the platform, you can elect, most enterprises elect to not allow those training cycles and that feedback to be fed up into, let's say, the larger Watson ecosystem. So your data remains isolated, private, and any training that you put into the platform, for the most part, unless you elect otherwise, will be used only for your instance of Watson.
Christine, if I may add to that as well, with the actual voice access, that can be provided either in the cloud or on-premise. So you can connect to Watson in the cloud, but you could switch over to an application that's, say, for entering credit cards. If you really wanted to keep that on your own premises, then you can host the IVR there and host a credit card processing application locally, and then switch back to Watson. So just another option there.
Okay, great, thanks. Another question is, how does the cognitive conversation handle accents and languages other than English?
So Watson is trained in many different languages. They are continuing to evolve as we speak. I will try to, you can always look at the Blueworx API documentation for the latest and greatest up to date. But as of right now, Watson Conversation supports English, Arabic, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, and Spanish. And there are a few other languages, Chinese, Czech, and Dutch, in beta today. You can always check that supported languages page as well, but it will work through natively in those languages, meaning it understands the actual intent, syntax, etc. of those languages natively, or you can use a language translation service to scale that even further, but you'll find native language support in those particular languages I mentioned.
Great, thanks, Christine. Dean, this is probably a question for you. What is the differentiating factors between Blueworx and Watson combined versus Watson alone?
The key thing is the scalable, reliable voice access. You can interact with Watson Conversation using a text method, and that's great for instant messaging or SMS. but that doesn't help when you're, say, in a car and you want to arrange an appointment. So it provides the voice access to that exact same application, but it does it in an extremely reliable telco-grade way.
Great, thank you, Dean. It looks like that is it for questions. Oh, we have one more. What if we don't want to retain credit card data, as that is our policy to remain PCI compliant? Where would that information be as our banking company keeps it today?
So we've actually, if you recall, we were just mentioning we worked with a healthcare insurer in which PHI is very key concern. So we have developed a solution that helps strip out any PII, PCI, PHI, any of that proprietary information on-premise before communicating to the Watson cloud-based system. So you can keep all of that information on-premise. We create unique identifiers that are used to communicate with the Watson conversation, so you can keep the thread back and forth, but you're never actually exposing any of that sensitive data to the Watson Developer Cloud. That was an interesting approach we had to take for that healthcare insurer as well.
Great, thank you. Well, we appreciate everyone joining us again for this webinar. Within the next few days, we'll share a link to the recording along with a link to a demo of a cognitive customer service solution that you can take a look at. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.